All right, welcome everybody. I'm here with Mr. Biedenstein. I will let Michael. Why don't you tell us, what you do, where you're at, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Michael Biedenstein. I am the Park Program Services Division Manager, which is kind of a silly way to say recreation manager, recreation superintendent is what others might call that for St. Louis County Parks. So St. Louis County Parks serves all of St. Louis County, being about 1 million people, but there are a bunch of there's 70 or 80 municipalities within St. Louis County. So we have, my recreation division leads all of our events, programs. We have 6 rec centers, 5 historic and cultural sites. So I lead a team of about 65 full-timers and a couple hundred part-timers, depending on the time of the year,
Sure.
whether pools are open or camps are going, or if it's rink season, that sort of thing.
How long have you been in that position?
Been in this position for about year and a half, 2.5 years now.
Okay, but you've been in that area for a while, right?
Yeah, I was born, raised, still currently live in St. Louis. I've been lucky enough to move up without moving around. A lot of times it's easier to move up in whatever field it is if you're willing to relocate.
Yeah.
The good thing about having so many municipalities in St. Louis County is that there are quite a few different organizations.
Yeah.
So were a lot of options for me to look at, and this is my 3rd organization within St. Louis County. Worked for kind of a medium-sized municipality, and then for a teeny tiny little municipality, and now for the biggest agency in the area. So even though I didn't have to relocate outside of St. Louis, I was able to hop around a little bit in order to get lots of different experiences and in different focus areas, but also different size organizations.
Yeah. Well, so before we jump into some serious stuff, so tell us a little bit about what you do for fun outside of your job.
Sure. First and foremost, I'm a husband and father of 2 fantastic kids, 4-year-old and 7-year-old. So they keep me busy, have a lot of fun with them. It's obviously been very different this year, the pandemic, with everybody. Instead of us going on trips out to see friends in Kansas City and Chicago and Colorado, instead we're hanging out at home a lot more. Normally we try and do those sort of things. A lot of things are focused around the kiddos and their activities and their friends. But I was born and raised and live in this area, and so I've got a great support structure and friend structure around here. I am really passionate about parks and recreation. I also do it for fun and leisure. I was born and raised in the parks. My dad was a landscape architect for St. Louis County Parks. So he was always going out and checking on different projects and different playgrounds that were getting built and buildings that are getting built, and I was always tagging along. And back then the parks didn't have names, but I always delineated them based on their playground. There was Square Slide Park, and then there was Rocket Park, and so yeah, I mean, I've always done that, and I try to instill that in my kids as well, just because it's something that I think is really important and really valuable, no matter whether it's a teeny tiny little organization just for our little municipality of 20,000 people, or whether it's for St. Louis County Parks as a whole. And really part of that also is I'm really passionate about my support for parks and recreation professional organizations. So that's at the state level. For me, that's the Missouri Park and Recreation Association. Been involved since I was a student. And then at nearly every level now. And then also the national organization as well. So National Recreation and Park Association. I was lucky enough to get a young professional fellowship early in my career to get me to conference for the first time. And it's where I met Dr. Bradley, probably when he was just Mike Bradley. And yeah. So I mean, that I do that for fun and leisure too. A lot of times I might not be binging a show. I might be working on Young Professional Network stuff, or coming up with a proposal for this or that. Besides that, I volunteer locally. I volunteered, I think, this year, even though it was an abbreviated season, was my 19th season volunteering with my high school football team. And I don't know, besides that, I find that I often am connecting with friends and professional network. I'm a big fan of sharing good craft beer.
Yeah, right. And that may be the reason we initially talked.
Probably so. I mean, good craft beer is good, but there's nothing better than sharing it with a friend.
Yeah. So something you mentioned about, you're involved with the Missouri Parks and Rec Association as a student. Where did you go to school and what did you major in and what did you study, that kind of stuff?
Well, I didn't start at Southeast Missouri, but that's probably a part of the next question. But I ended up at Southeast Missouri State, majored in, my undergrad is in Parks and Recreation there. Really enjoyed my time. I kind of ended up taking care of a bunch of prereqs beforehand and did like 4 straight semesters of just Parks and Rec classes.
Yeah.
It was a blast, absolute blast. And then after a couple of years, went back and did a 100% online Master's of Business Administration. I looked at a couple different options on what I should do for my master's. I knew I wanted to do my master's because I knew at some point in my career it might not be required, but it was going to be a preferred thing listed on a job listing. And so I did my master's actually with my wife, did the master's program at the same time. I wanted somebody, whether there's a friend or a professional confidant or my wife, to do the program alongside me to kind of keep up on accountability and keep ourselves going. And so that worked out really well. I needed something that was 100% online. I looked at Parks and Rec. Honestly, if I had to go back now, there's some really cool Parks and Rec master's programs out there that meld in business administration with it.
Yeah.
Those just weren't an option back then. So love that I was able to do it, and I did it slowly. we were doing 2 or 3 classes a semester before we had kids, and then once we had kids, you just, okay, let's do a class a semester, and got it done.
What town is Southeast Missouri?
Yeah, Southeast Missouri is in Cape Girardeau. So if you're going up and down Interstate 55 on kind of the east side of Missouri, it's the biggest city between St. Louis and Memphis.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So you talked about you grew up in parks. So whether it's parks related, which I'm guessing probably will be or not, what other type of jobs did you have in your youth and in your young adult life?
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose. It was just every job I've had has been in Parks and Recreation. I mean, I grew up going to the pool to do swim lessons, and the municipal pool to do swim lessons and swim team, and Parks and Rec soccer on Saturday mornings and skating lessons at the municipal rink. Like that was the value. There was so much of a distinct value for my family and my local Parks and Recreation department that it just made sense that then my jobs in high school was I worked at St. Louis County Parks as a park ranger aide, like helping with special events and taking $2 for you to launch your boat at the boat ramp and freezing my tail off at the holiday light display, directing traffic, but also that was county parks. At my local Kirkwood Parks and Recreation Department, I did literally every job I could find, with the exception of lifeguard. Those people got hot, so I sat in the shade at the pool front desk with a fan on me. But yeah, pool cashier, front desk worker at the community center, rink guard, rink manager. I mean, I was a custodian for a day. Literally whatever they needed help with, I just jumped in and had a blast with it. And that's really how I got to Parks and Recreation in college too. Is I started out as a chemistry and German major because that's what I had the most AP credit in, and after I realized I didn't want to do that, I did kind of some soul searching, and finally my dad kind of looked at me and said, "Hey, what if you majored in Parks and Recreation?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Dad, but I need to do a real job." He said, "No, I mean, think about it, Michael. All of these places that you've worked, I mean, there's professionals that are there, that are running these programs, that are running these departments." And I don't know why it hadn't clicked for me. I think so many of us do find Parks and Recreation as a discovery major, if you will. And that's what really clicked for me. I was like, I've been loving all these part-time jobs that I've been doing. If I could get paid to do this with benefits and an actual career path, yeah. I mean, after that, it was the rest is history. Hopped into the major, looked around at a couple different major programs in the state, and yeah, I've loved every minute since.
In Missouri, they've got a good number of Parks and Rec programs throughout the state, and there are different colleges too. So you had some good choices to choose from.
Yeah, lucky in that sense.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about what you do now. So take us through maybe a couple of normal things you do throughout the day or over a couple of days.
Sure. So I mean, I've started my career as a rec specialist and a rec coordinator, rec supervisor, where you're doing the programs. You're running the little TOTS program, and you're working directly with the instructors for karate and running rentals. And at this point, I am at the point in my career when I am leading full timers. I am not doing nearly as much as I am leading, and trying to be a resource for all of those professionals in my organization. So a lot of my job ends up being putting out fires.
Sure.
Something will pop up here or there. I try to be more proactive and try to be looking for opportunities that I can take away barriers for my teams, whether that's a purchasing rule that delays what they're doing, make it easier for them, or make it easier for them to charge the right fee, or make it easier for them to be open longer. Whatever they need,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do at my level. Obviously, there's also a bit of HR stuff where I'm trying to keep people accountable and trying to get them challenge them to be better. But my day-to-day really does. It could be anything. I mean, we've got big department-wide initiatives that we're working on, but also the nice thing is that if I'm in a rut, there's also days that I can go out and do this. I can just let's go do some park checks. Let's go see. I've got people at probably 9 or 10 different locations at this point. And one of the most energizing things that I can do is get out of my office and get out into the field. And that's when you really get to, for me, that's when I really re-energize and I see the impact. When I'm in an admin office, it's sometimes hard to see how we are fulfilling our mission to provide high quality parks, facilities, and recreation services to enhance the lives of our citizens.
Certainly, yeah.
And getting out into the field, I try to do that as much as I can. I don't do it as much as I should, but I try to do it as much as I can because that's really we recharge the batteries, if you will.
Yeah. So to kind of dovetail with that, you can give as much or a little information. Tell us some things talking to somebody about what you generally like about your job, and if you had some bragging points about your career, what would those be? And then opposite of that, what are some things that you find challenging, whether it's professionally or personally, about your career?
Sure. I mean, bragging points on my career, I think that I've pushed the limits of rooms that I should be in or shouldn't be in. Been respectful about it, but I've tried to step up to the plate, and whether that was serving on the board as a student and actually serving on the board as opposed to just having my name on it, but actually going to board meetings, or getting a professional certification as a student, my AFO as a student. Trying to push that envelope a little bit respectfully. I mean, I'm not going to try and be in a room that I'm not supposed to be in, but also if the only reason that I'm not in the room is because nobody's done it before, then I kind of tried to push that envelope a little bit. And since I guess probably the second half of my career at this point, I've tried to take my experience and open more doors for professionals. And I'm really proud of some of the things that I've been able to accomplish. In the state of Missouri, we didn't have a young professional group per se. There would be informal kind of clusters of people that would pop up, and we had a student section, and the student section tried to be for young professionals too, but even though a student and a young professional, I mean, what chronologically might be 12 months apart, 6 months apart, they're very different needs and value that those two groups need. And so we kind of formed a coalition and got the right people on board and talked to the right people and got the right buy-in, and we formed the Missouri Young Professional section in 2018. From there, I pivoted back to kind of a national focus, and I was able to be the chair of the Young Professional Network over the last year. Kind of it was this super weird year of having a virtual conference instead of no conference. And so I mean, it probably wasn't the year that I envisioned for being the chair of the Young Professional Network, but we were able to get a program off the ground, a national Parks and Recreation 30 under 30 program that that was not solely my idea, but I kind of took and tried to champion and tried to push forward and tried to find the right home for. And we found a home for it at the national magazine, the National Park and Recreation magazine. And Thursday, actually, the inaugural class, the list drops, if you will.
Yeah.
And so it'll be really cool to see that initiative come to fruition and see some 30 young professionals get the recognition that they 100% deserve and maybe haven't gotten to this point, and really to hear these inspirational stories of the impact that those professionals are having so early in their career. So, I mean, those are kind of things that I am really excited about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To go back to kind of like, what do you like and dislike about your job? I touched on this a little bit. I like, even though I'm further away from customers at this point, I do like the challenges of motivating people and finding the right ways to get the best out of them. Sometimes that's coaching them, sometimes that's removing barriers for them, sometimes it's pushing them out of their comfort zone. And everybody reacts differently to that. And I do really enjoy the dynamics and the relationships that I've built with those team members. I do genuinely enjoy that. I like that I'm challenged by it. It's something very different than Parks and Recreation programming. Now that said, I do miss having that direct customer interaction.
Yeah.
I miss seeing the day-to-day impact that we have on people's lives, the joy that literally comes to their face when they walk in the rec center, or when they do that preschool pals art program. I do miss that.
Yeah.
And I miss being a doer. I do miss like being the one who actually, like, I thought that I was a pretty good doer, fast with Excel and a good writer and creative to come up with different programs. And I do miss that. And I respect the heck out of people who recognize that they don't want to be in administration. They want to be the best aquatics person in the country, and they want to be the most creative programmer, and they stick with that. I wanted to go beyond that, but I do miss it. And I think a lot of times that's what I kind of look for in my state association or national association involvement, is the opportunity to still be the doer, to still put together the score sheet for 30 under 30 and the scoring criteria, and actually kind of get that organized and out the door. So yeah, there's advantages and disadvantages. I do like where I'm at, but I mean, there's always nothing better than going to a special event and just seeing smiles on people's faces. Like that, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. So you talked about you're obviously passionate about what you do. I guess the next question I have is, if you weren't working in Parks and Recreation, what kind of job or what kind of profession do you think you'd be in?
I'm an Excel nerd, like wicked nerd. These glasses aren't fake. Like I really am a tech nerd. So I think I probably would be doing some sort of, I don't know, admin or business intelligence or something like that. I've loved that I've found ways through every step of my career to leverage that, even though it's not my job, to reach out to the finance person and say, hey, how can I help? And maybe come up with a solution that might help them, whether it's rewriting the budget as an intern, or something like that. I'd probably be doing that, or I don't know, maybe I could do that high school football stats thing professionally. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that, since I've known you a little bit, it kind of seems like, I think you could excel in a lot of different stuff. So I wondered what you were kind of thinking about, we're getting close to our time here, but before we leave, for anybody that's considering a career path similar to yours, whether that's municipal rec or aquatics or whatever it may be, do you as far as like a high school student or a college student, is there any like parting words of advice you have for these folks?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of broke out into 3 logical areas for me. And the first and foremost is use your time as a student. Just like anything in life, you can glide through and get B's and C's and fly under the radar and be good. You'll get your degree at the end. But if you actually use your time as a student, and that's going and doing an observation at a place that you want to work that might not be local to the university, or maybe that using your time over a break to do those observations or practicum, or maybe taking an internship that's minimum wage or unpaid as opposed to something at a larger organization where you won't have as much impact. As a student, I had a buddy who, his name's Rodney Sadley, he's Director of Parks and Recreation in Kirksville, Missouri now. Rodney knew everybody, shook everybody's hand at conference. We went to conferences as students, and everybody always tried to make small talk and, hey, what do you do? Tell us about your organization. And at the end, everybody said, yeah, you should come by and see us sometime. Thinking, no, I'll never, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We did it. Our senior year, we did a tour day in Missouri where we visited 11 different parks and recreation departments across the state.
Yeah.
Neither of us were cool kids that were going to go to Cabo Wabo or something like that. And so we toured around the state and we visited a bunch of different parks and recreation agencies. And those connections that we made have served us throughout our entire career. The knowledge base, just to be able to talk knowledgeably. I'm not saying you have to do that, but use your time as a student. Professionals in the field want to help students. And I'm not trying to be callous when I say when you graduate, you end up, it's hard for you not just to be another resume on the stack. Take advantage of your time as a student to reach out and to make those connections. And that really dovetails into get involved. I know that students today have more on their plate than they've ever had. But your involvement with whether it's your local parks and recreation agency or whether it's a local camp or whether it's your state or national professional organization, I mean, those are down payments on your future. Sure, you might be passing up a shift at the part-time job that you're working at, or you might miss a weekend trip. But if you can put that deposit on your future, it's going to pay off tenfold down the road. So whether that's the Arkansas Recreation and Park Association, I just Googled it, their student membership's $15. It even looks like, is it Chase Reynolds? Chase Reynolds might be an Arkansas Tech student. He's the current student rep on the board. Like, that's a huge opportunity. Use that. Actually go to those board meetings. You don't have to say much, just soak it all in.
Right.
Get involved and try and say yes as much as you can. As a student, I served on the 50th anniversary committee. And you know what? All that I ended up doing was putting pictures to music for a video show. But I was in the room with a bunch of directors, one of which then ended up hiring me for my first job, for my internship and my first job. So try to find ways to get involved. And I don't know, trying also just to listen to people smarter than myself or Dr. Bradley. Find those opportunities, whether it's the Let's Talk Parks podcast. I'm a huge fan of that. Anthony Arachne is a good buddy of mine, and they do awesome content for students and young professionals. Or I don't know whether Arkansas has a state young professional group. If not, hop into the NRPA Young Professional Network. Don't tell NRPA this, but there's a $35 student membership, but you can just hop in the Facebook group without that membership. So hop in their Facebook group. And you know what? Some of the months the topic might not help you, but some months, they usually do a whole call each month, or once a year at least. One of those monthly calls is about internships or finding that first job. They have a student outreach committee. Serve on that student outreach committee. I don't know, who knows, just sit in the back. I sat in the background on those calls. I don't know about you, Michael. I sat on the background of those calls for probably 3 or 4 months before I said a word. And that is totally fine. Yeah. Find the right opportunity, know when it works in your year and your time, when you have the opportunity to have a little bit of bandwidth to throw at it. But yeah, just use your time, because the opportunities are there, but you've got to take the opportunities yourself. Michael Bradley, Dr. Bradley is going to show you what they are, but you got to drink. He's going to take you to the water. You got to drink.
So one thing that, I tell a lot of folks, students and otherwise, is, and I'm preaching this to my kids a little bit now, just to kind of, start that foundation early, is your professional development starts when you step foot in college, not when you step foot into your first job. And I think that's a mistake a lot of folks make, is they think that, kind of like you were saying, I'll get through college, I'll get my piece of paper, and then I'll look about jobs and start getting serious. Well, you're just behind. You're behind a lot of folks that when they stepped in the classroom the first time, they knew that this was their time to start their launching pad for their career.
Yeah, if you don't believe Dr. Bradley, I will 100% back that up. It's not just your professor saying it. Once again, I'm not trying to sound callous, but there are people that are out there that are doing it. They're doing an internship as an undergrad, or they're volunteering at the local Parks and Rec. They're getting that real world experience. Don't get me wrong, you need a degree, like you need to check that box. But what's going to set you apart in that internship interview, or what's going to set you apart in that first job interview, sure, it's what's on paper, but you'll also be able to talk so much more knowledgeably about the field and relate. And it just comes across. You can't fake it. You can't learn in a classroom how to deal with the crazy mom yelling in your face. You just got to do it. That is pissed because you won't let her kid go do a back dive off the diving board. Like, there's nothing in a classroom that can prepare you for that. You just got to do it. And so even if you just dip your toe in it in college, like, as much as you can, use your time as a student.
Yeah, I have a friend, John McChesney at Eastern Kentucky University, professor there, and he says, you got to give yourself every opportunity to have a competitive advantage, whatever that is. For different folks looking for different things, whatever it is, you need to do something to give yourself that leg up. And I think that's really wise advice. Mr. Biedenstein, sincerely appreciate it. I'm not going to take up any more time. Thank you so much. And as always, if you need anything, you can let me know.
Likewise. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, sir.